Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. With us waiting to be profiled is actor Dominic Hoffman and actress Sharon McNight. Dominic Hoffman was born in Oakland and raised in Fresno. He stayed in California to earn a bachelor's degree in literature from the University of California at Santa Cruz. Then he moved around. He trained at NYU. He worked at the South Coast, New Mexico, and San Diego Repertory Theaters, Williamstown Festival. He worked at the Mark Taper. Dominic Hoffman has performed in numerous Shakespearean festivals. You've really been around. You're a person in Hollywood who seems to thrive on the theater, Dominic.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of theater here. It's just not, it just doesn't seem to matter that much. You know, there's, I love the theater. What can I say? I mean, that's what I do. That's what I do. Yeah.
Did you always want to act?
No, I was a writer first. I was a writer first, and I watched people do this stuff, and I thought, well, I'm tired of sitting down. Let me give it a shot. And actually, when I was in school, I went for voice lessons. And the teacher was in the middle of doing callbacks for a show. And she asked me if I wanted to audition. And that's how I got in acting. But
it was nothing to do with your writing? You were just there doing...
I was just there, and I was applying to go to ACT.
Oh, yes.
So I wanted to get a little voice class so I could do some Shakespeare. And I stumbled on there, and they were right in the middle of callbacks for Twelfth Night.
Oh.
And I did it, and that sort of changed my life, actually.
But did you ever do Shakespeare in Europe, in London?
You know, I did it on the streets. I went to school there. I went to London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts, and when I was there, I would take a little sign and wrote, American actors doing Shakespeare. And I did all monologues, you know, in Covent Garden, all over the streets.
Is that right?
It was busking, my form of busking. I couldn't play guitar, but I did Shakespeare.
Did you dress the part?
No.
You just did? How?
Name your monologue sort of thing.
I never know how people can do that. How? I guess that's part of the theater.
Fear.
That's how you do it?
Fear. I mean, let's face it, if you forget the line, you know, you have egg all over your face, it's embarrassing, and so fear sort of drives you, you know. But the other thing is, what happens is the more interesting you get in it, the more the words become yours. And it's not really a trick, it's sort of like it becomes a part of who you are.
But that's total memorization. I mean, that's totally committed to that work, I guess. I guess that's how it is.
Yeah.
And if you write something, you can do it better than anyone else.
Well, if I write it myself, I'm very partial to it. But the tricky thing about writing something is oftentimes you want to rewrite. In the middle, you want to rewrite. This doesn't work because it's yours and you can. You know, you have to respect somebody else's work, but you don't have to respect your own.
I see. Well, when I talked about being in Hollywood and theater, have you done film work?
I've done some. It just seems that stuff escapes me. You know, it's I don't know. Maybe they think I'm too theatrical, or I don't know. No, that hasn't been my forte. I came here actually to do some film and television, but it's been very limited.
And television the same way. You haven't.
The same, yeah.
But the thing is, you use your voice. You do a lot of voiceover.
I do looping. I make a living doing looping. ADR, automatic digital replacement.
Instead of waiting on tables?
I waited on tables for 10 years.
You did?
I waited I've done a lot of that. I could, yeah.
But you also write for radio?
I've written radio plays and some television. I've written some television that's been produced, and a bunch of screenplays, and I write theater because you can get it up easier. There are fewer people to say yes or no. If you write a screenplay, you know, I'm sure you've tried your hand at that. I mean, you have to convince 1 million people before, no?
It is too hard to even think of. I can write an article, but I can't write a screenplay.
Well, it's wise not to, actually. Because, you know, an article somebody reads immediately. It's almost instant gratification.
Right.
But
that's how.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing, talking about the theater and instant gratification, I know you did Blade to the Heat at the Taper. I mean, you were the center of attraction. Tell us. It was directed by Ron Link.
Right.
It was a very tough piece of theater. They built a boxing ring right in the Mark Taper Theater,
Extraordinary.
right?
Extraordinary.
Tell us about it.
Well, I'm not sure I was the center of the piece, but people may say that sometimes because I actually took a shower center stage.
Well, that was pretty good.
And then I couldn't turn around because I did turn around, but if you turn around, there was a mirror in the back, so there was no escaping it. I played a Cuban boxer, very volatile, named Mantequilla Decima. And he was a very smooth guy. Mantequilla means butter, and that's how he considered himself. Yeah. And it was a wild, wild show because we had to train as boxers with a professional boxer for 4 hours, and then we'd rehearse after that.
But you actually, when you came into the ring, it looked like you were training. You had the physique, obviously, of a boxer because of all the training you put in?
Because of all the training. It was
You were throwing punches and all that?
Jumping. I had 3 fights in the ring on stage 8 times a week.
I know. So it was tough. Well, I saw you on stage the other day, too, in the play that you did at the Tiffany called Uncle Jacques Symphony.
Yes, yes.
And I could see the way you moved around the stage that you move like a boxer. Now, let's get into dancing and choreography and boxing. Let's put it all together.
You know, the one good thing about going to conservatories is they give you movement classes, and they show you all kinds of ways to move, all kinds of styles. They show you dance and just yoga and just physical ways to express yourself. And when you're acting on stage, you know, it really adds a dimension to the character, I think.
But you moved on stage. I mean, you almost danced on stage. I don't think anyone can talk and move and do the things the same way in the boxing when you were doing that.
Don't you think boxers move a certain way? I mean, you see them when they get into the ring. They bring all of their humanity and their machismo and also their gentleness and their fear and their power and aggression. And in movement, that translates into something very specific, I think. And it's interesting to watch somebody on stage capture that, I think.
Did you ever dance?
Oh, yeah, I've done all that stuff. I've boxed, I've danced, I do yoga. I mean, still,
You still are?
Yeah.
And you also have a great physique because do you still work out?
I tell you, the older I get, the more I need to work out. So yes, I still do. Yeah.
You do?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's harder, but yeah. I mean, it's like I feel like a horse. You know, they shoot you if you stop running.
That's it. So before we stop running, tell us about. You're on stage. You play 7 characters.
Yeah.
And never leave the stage.
Yeah.
I noticed.
For better or for worse.
But you also play a woman, a couple of women's roles, yes. Tell us how you wrote it, how it came to be, and a little bit about it.
My uncle was a jazz drummer, and
this is true.
This is true. This is the only thing that's true in this.
This is Uncle Jacques?
Uncle Jacques was a jazz drummer, and he was from Chicago, and he was a pretty cool guy. And when he came out here, he quit playing the drums. But he always had his drums set up in his living room, assembled, but didn't play them. And I wondered, what does a person do who's been living all their lives for, with, because of music? How do they replace that? And I thought it was a great metaphor for how you find music in your life, and that's through the people. They become your instruments.
Oh, I see.
And then I tried to get as many interesting and diverse people together and use that as his symphony.
I see, I see. So those people aren't really real people. Those are people that you've written as a playwright, as one of your other hats.
Yes.
So
And
tell us a little bit about each character. You had a Puerto Rican woman.
Puerto Rican girl who's in love with another Puerto Rican guy who her parents don't like because even though he's Puerto Rican, he's black. I've got an older woman who mourns in a very wonderful way, I think, or explains the loss of her son to prison. I've got an arrogant painter who talks at people like he owns them. I've got a Cuban boxer who's damaged by boxing, but he loves it still, defends it loyally. And we've got who's the first guy? Sweetness. Sweetness is a guy who expresses his skills with women on the basketball court and holds court with other guys.
How do you change from character to character? Because there's not very much time in between.
No time. I just sort of live with them. You know, I really like these people. I really, really like these people, and they become part of who I am. And
when you do a one-act play, though, you change clothes. So that was the lights go down, and you put a shirt on, or
very minimal.
Very minimal.
Very minimal. Yeah. You change rhythm. You change speech patterns. You change movement. Yes, and you change their inner. Well, the rhythm is probably the best word because everybody has a different rhythm. You know.
Were any of those autobiographical?
You know, I don't think anybody writes anything that isn't somewhere in them.
So you found a little bit of you in each one of those?
Me or somebody I knew, somebody I'd like to know, somebody...
The one thing when you did the woman who was in love with the guy, after a couple of minutes, you don't even see that you're a guy anymore.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Really? What kind of movements were those? I mean, those were more facial, head.
Well, yeah, that's just, but that was,
Hands.
she was telling the story. Her need to tell you the story about her man should supersede and take over everything. And if you're successful, then you don't really see me, hopefully.
You didn't change your voice, though. Did you? Maybe you did.
Puerto Rican accent. Puerto Rican girl accent. Oh, yeah, I changed it.
So how did you say her name?
She doesn't have a name. The funny thing about these people is none of them have names, except Sweetness and Uncle Jacques.
So just give me one little, just one little thing so I can remember that.
Well, it's very difficult, you know. Being a Puerto Rican girl, you know, it's hard, you know. I don't just do it like that. Come on, now.
Oh, you know, and you had your pins in your hair.
Yes.
And you did so many little things that brought her to life.
Yeah, she's zany.
She's great. And the other thing, just before we leave, I want you to say it because I thought at the end you came out and talked to the audience. I don't know if you do this every time you do a show or in a one-person show. It was so moving to me that you took the time to come back out on stage.
Well, theater is one of those things that's very slightly publicized. So you have to drag people in. And I just made an announcement that if they like the play, to support it and tell someone.
And it was so sincere to tell someone to come and see it, to go to the theater. So we thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Sharon McNight. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and we're back with Sharon McNight, who was destined to be on stage. As a child, she took all kinds of lessons, from ballet to flute, with some hula, piano, and tap thrown in. She earned a master's from San Francisco State, and it was in directing. In 1989, she made her Broadway debut, and Sharon, you received a Tony nomination for that. How great was that?
That was actually very exciting because we were a little independent production. We weren't the big boys. And I got to play two parts in it. I played two different mothers, a mother on Earth and then a mother in space.
What was the name of it?
Starmites.
Right.
The Mighty Starmites.
And besides getting a Tony nomination, you won an award for a Broadway debut.
Yes, it's called the Theater World Award. It's actually older than the Tonys and Carol Channing gave it to me. It was so exciting. Yes.
It's older than the Tonys?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's so great. That's a long way from Modesto.
It is a long way.
Were you born in Modesto?
My father was born in Modesto. That's how far we go back.
Wow.
The fertile San Joaquin Valley.
So is that why you're partial to San Francisco? Because you do spend a lot of time in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. That's where I went to school, and then I started my cabaret career there, singing in nightclubs there, and just...
Oh, you started in San Francisco?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
One of the things your bio says is from the Moose Halls to Carnegie Halls. Tell us what Moose Halls are. We know what Carnegie Hall is.
Well, when I started with the Lane Twins School of Dance in Modesto, California, doing ballet, tap, hula, and toe, we would go to the Eagles, the Elks, the Lions, the Moose, an occasional Odd Fellow here and there, and entertain. And that was from 6th grade until I graduated from high school.
And then you performed at Carnegie Hall, too?
Yeah, uh-huh. I've been there twice.
And doing what kind of show?
Well, the first one was a tribute to Leonard Bernstein, and I did 100 Easy Ways to Lose a Man that Roz Russell did on Broadway. And then the second time was called, it was a tribute to the movies, and I did Mae West singing My Old Flame with the full regalia and the hair and the, you know, the boa.
Who does the makeup for you on things like that and gets the clothes and...
You're looking at her, the lucky girl, a one-man band right here. And then I do The Wizard of Oz. I do 7 minutes from The Wizard of Oz where I do the Munchkins and the coroner and the mayor and Glenda and the Wicked Witch, all of them.
Do you do, I mean, is that one show that you do?
No, it's just 7 minutes. It's just part of, you know, I haven't done it in a while because I've been doing
But how do you change into all those people is what I was trying to say if it was just one show.
You turn your head this way and then you turn your head that way and then you turn your head this way. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? You know, I mean, who, me? I'm not a witch at all. I'm Glinda. You know, I mean, back and forth.
Just in one?
Just one thing. I just stand there and just start and we do it.
And how do you get your mindset? I can't believe that voice.
Methamphetamines, folks.
That voice coming out of you.
Yeah, I have a lot of different voices. Actually, I just did a demo for something coming up, an animated thing, where I had to play a bird. And so I whistled. And there are not very many women that whistle, I guess, because they phoned me up and I, you know.
For an animation film? Well, do you do voiceover? You must do voiceover.
You know, it was hard for me to get an agent in this town to do voiceover. I have to go out and pursue it. It's tough because when you're in the nightclub business, you're on the road all the time, and they want you here for auditions. And I can make a lot of money if I go on the road, you know.
For in your own shows?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's usually Sharon McNight what?
It's
or just Sharon McNight?
Just old Sharon McNight, good old Sharon, entertainer, you know, make you laugh, make you cry, old style entertainment. Or I have a show that's based on the life of Sophie Tucker that I'm doing, that I've developed, that's played here in town twice at the Cinegrill, in San Francisco twice at the Plush Room, Portland, Oregon, Chicago, Illinois.
We have a tape. Do we have a tape on that?
You certainly do.
But that can play all over at all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You use the same costumes?
Yeah. It started out as a cabaret show, and then I took it to Denver and I developed it into a 2-act play, and it ran there for 6 months.
Wow, 2-act play?
Yeah.
And are you the only person in it?
I am.
You carry it all the way through?
Somebody's got to shoulder the responsibility.
Well, let's see a clip from that.
This is actually the cabaret version done at the Cinegrill, but it'll give you the idea, the flair, me pretending I'm a fat old Jew broad.
Is that what she was?
Yes.
All right, let's see that.
Sheets, knickers, jelly beans, lend me your ears. So you think you've been petted? Don't be silly, forget it. Nibs, flappers, baby vamps, bore me to tears. They say, oh, what do they know concerning love? Come to me for your burning love. 'Cause I'm the last of the red hot mamas. They all cool down but me. Flapper vamps say, what do they know? Come get your hot stuff from this volcano. I'm an overhater, try and beat her. A hotsy-totsy, a hottentot. Now it may sound silly, but when I get going, oh baby, I'm hot. Now you can keep your colleague Big charmers say their lovin' isn't worth a dime. You know, way up in Alaska where the natives freeze, an Eskimo left my hut in his BVD. 'Cause I'm the last of the red hot ones. I'm getting hotter all the time.
You are so great. I can't believe it. Your voice is so strong. How did you learn her movements?
Well, yeah, I studied some footage of her from the movies, the few movies that she did do. She did actually one of the first motion pictures with sound in 1928 for Warner Brothers. Right after Jolson came out with The Jazz Singer, Sophie did another one called Honky Tonk. And so that is not in existence anymore. I'm looking for it, but it just isn't around. But I watched her a lot, and being a big woman, pretending that I'm a bigger woman is easy to act out, and just listening to her voice when she sings, because she has a big voice, and so do I, kind of that Merman-esque,
Right.
She was pre-Merman. She started in 1906 and didn't use a microphone until 1934.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you actually do these impressions, you've researched it from
Oh, yeah.
top to bottom.
Oh, yeah.
So the clothes are authentic,
Yeah.
the movements are authentic. If you move this from the Cinegrill from a stage
Yeah.
in a cabaret setting to the theater, what did you do? Did you add sets?
Yeah, I added sets and costume changes, and so you follow her career.
You tell the story?
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't actually tell the story. All of a sudden, you're in the middle of the story. It starts at the Latin Quarter. She played the Latin Quarter, which was Barbara Walters' father's club, right in the heart of Manhattan. And it opens there, and then it goes back to her beginnings when she first started in burlesque, and then moving up the chain and through the husbands. We go through the husbands, and so she's backstage in her dressing room, and then she's on stage. So really, the only time she relates to you is when she's on stage. Then you see her backstage life.
But are you changing on stage?
Yeah. I'm changing on stage, and I actually change off stage. I have one change that I wrote. It's in the middle of a sing-along. The audience sings "Wait Till the Sun Shines Nelly." I run off stage, and in about 10 seconds, do a complete change from this black velvet gown into a flapper dress. So
Wow.
we're moving along to the 20s as we go, just by, clothing styles.
Did she write her music?
No, she had just some composers named, Gershwin, Irving Berlin,
She
Rodgers and
wrote,
Hart,
Did
So-
they write for her? Were they writing for her
No,
particularly?
well, actually, she would go to Tin Pan Alley in between probably 1910 through 1920 and get new material all the time. She believed in new material constantly. And then she had a guy named Jack Yellen who wrote a lot of her stuff, who also wrote Ain't She Sweet and a little song called Happy Days Are Here Again.
And that's what she sang.
Well, she sang his special material, and matter of fact, she hired him, and he wrote for her exclusively toward the last 30 years of her career. She was in the business 60 years.
Well,
so.
we have a real rundown on her, but she's not the only one that you impersonate.
Yeah, coming by impersonation was weird because I sing. That's, and it just happens that I have a good ear, so that if I have to do somebody, it's a little bit nasty, I can go into it any time. Joan, I have a philosophy about men. It's the 3 F's. Find them, fool them, and forget them. Wow.
See, that's so fabulous because it's your whole attitude.
Yeah,
You're
well,
changing your attitude and changing your... Do you do this in film?
No, not really, because they don't want anybody who's larger than life in film. That's
Who do
the
they
problem.
want? You've done films. You've done film work.
Well, they want less. They want to see the real you.
They want Sharon McNight
Well,
when you go into the movie.
Yeah, but they want less than Sharon McNight, because Sharon McKnight is too large, or larger than life than what they want.
So do you do a lot of film work?
No, not really. I'd rather do stage. I like it. It's not. You're working, and then you're resting. Whereas film, it's get up early in the morning, which is not a pretty picture for us nightclub girls, and then go in there and wait around.
I see.
It's a technical medium. I'd rather direct the film than be in the film.
So tell me how you differentiate then between cabaret, show tunes, and this cowgirl, country music. I think you're doing country music now.
Yeah.
Or have you always done it?
I've always done country music. When I started in cabaret in 1978, I was singing Stand By Your Man And then I watched The Tonight Show one time when Roy Rogers was on, and he yodeled. And I said, I can do that. So now I yodel in my act, which is a dying art. Yo-dee-dee-dee-oh, doodle-oo, eh-dee-dee-dee-oh-dee-dee-dee-oh-dee-dee-dee-oh.
Did you learn, I mean, did you go to learn that? Did you go to a voice school?
No, I just watched Roy Rogers explain it to Johnny Carson, and he did it, and I went, well, I can do that. So I do a lot of Hank Williams. I got the feeling called the blues, oh Lord, since my baby said goodbye. You know, it's a different voice, and I like country music.
It's all in your ear.
Yeah.
And taking your ear to your.
Yeah.
Did you take a lot of singing? I mean, I know you did the hula.
Yeah.
And I know you were on toe.
Yeah.
And you tapped. But did you take voice lessons at that time?
I took voice lessons in college. I had a great teacher named Robert Khyber. I don't know where he is now. If you're out there, Mr. Khyber,
Call
I
me.
love you. And he coached me to sing Rose in Gypsy. So that's another one of my favorite roles.
But what he taught you, you could just transfer over and over?
Yeah, actually, it's good when you start out with a good foundation. I played an instrument. I played the flute for 12 years, so I was taught breathing correctly. And when you breathe correctly, I opened my mouth up to sing, and all of a sudden there was this huge voice because I knew how to use my mechanism, my instrument, much better than most people who were just taught singing.
Do you have a favorite music direction? I mean, do you like country better than show tunes, or?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. My real love, my favorite singer of all is Joe Cocker, and I love to sing the blues.
Oh, so you.
So I guess, yeah, I cover, they say, what kind of music do you sing? I say everything but grand opera and anything where the check doesn't bounce.
Where you have to take an accompaniment, a person to accompany you.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
And do you have the same person do that? How do you work that out?
At one time, I had the same person, and unfortunately, he passed away. You know, AIDS affects piano players too, and so I have a couple guys in L.A. I have a guy in San Francisco. I have a guy in New York. You know, they're here and they're there, so that I can pick them up. It's easier that way. And if I do the show, I have a special guy who looks like Ted Shapiro, who was Sophie's accompanist for 45 years.
Is that right?
Yes.
You can even replicate that?
I can replicate the guy. All I need is a white male, kind of tall and thin. We put a little glasses on him, and he has thinning hair, and he looks like Ted Shapiro.
I think this is so great. And I'm so glad you were with us today because you've really been interesting for us
thanks.
to talk to, Sharon. Thanks for coming. And also, look for her. She's all over, from New York to California and spots in between. Sharon McNight. So thanks for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles today, and we'll see you next time. Be sure to write to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 917, and we'll answer your calls and your letters.